Major with an estimating best practices video to address drywall scope for flood losses. I've been asked by adjusters who are being utilized in estimating flood losses, estimators and builders who are trying to use Xactimate and SimSaw for the correct line items to address a flood loss. Typically, insurance company adjusters who are estimating and estimators use a line item to remove and replace drywall taped and floated, or remove and replace drywall, and it is a square foot number. It's the stock number in Xactimate or SimSaw, but consistently come up with lower numbers and wind up having a problem later because the amounts that are being allowed by them are not enough to get the work done. So I'm just going to address the line items themselves and give recommended best practice scope line items for the adjusters to use moving forward. So what you see here, adjuster in an estimate, it's actually a Sandy claim, used the line item remove and replace the drywall. He basically is doing 4 foot. He's doing half of the wall, and he used a measurement to address half the wall. This line item, you'll see, actually assumes that a whole room is being removed or gutted. A whole room drywall is being removed and replaced. It also assumes that the drywall is dry. And so there's a lot of assumptions. I'm going to give you some correct scope. This is Xactimate, and this is actually the line item that is used in Xactimate for removing and replacing drywall. The category is DRY, the selector is 1/2, and then the action is remove and replace. Some adjusters will actually use remove as one line item and replace as another. I'm using remove and replace. What you can see here is the removed price for dry drywall is 47 cents. The replaced price is $1.97. This line item, this is what the adjuster or estimator sees when they're entering line items in Xactimate, and then we print it out and we see what we see in normal estimates. I can go on to this line item and I can look to see the item information. When I do that, I basically get a page, and that page tells me what's included or excluded in that line item. So drywall 1/2 inch, remove and replace, it's 1/2 inch drywall, hung, floated, ready for paint. This is the assembly information, which includes the labor and materials, and then there's a definition. Includes drywall, metal, corner bead, joint, texture, compound, drywall nails, tape, screws, and installation labor. Labor, cost to remove, drywall including screws, etc. Quality, and it says for a complete skim coat, smooth surface texture, see dry 1/2++. It's another line item. And then it basically says it includes first, second, third step to prep. One other thing we're going to address, which is very interesting, is it says drywall material components are surveyed as a typical house stocked as opposed to in-store shelf price. Consideration may be needed for delivery outside of a normal service area, small quantities, store pickup, or special circumstances resulting in higher delivery transportation costs. We're going to address this because I personally don't know of any contractors, builders, or guys that have the drywall in their garage or sitting on their truck already. The companies I do work with, we have a delivery service. We buy our drywall from a supplier. They show up with a boom truck. We've got 2 guys waiting there. If it's the first floor, the boom truck booms the drywall close to the door, and our guys load it into the house and carry it everywhere it's supposed to be. If there's a second floor, our guys take out a window and we boom it in. Other contractors will send 2 guys, take the truck, go to Home Depot, and pick up drywall. We'll address getting the drywall to the job in a second. So what we have here is the line item that normal adjusters use. In this case, it's 302.5 square feet divided in half because they're doing 4 foot, and it comes up with a line item, remove and replace. What I did is I used a different scope. Xactimate actually has line items to tear out wet drywall, clean up, bag per linear foot up to 4 feet, and lists category 3 water. If I go into this line item and I'm in Xactimate, I can see there's multiple line items. There's tear out drywall cleanup up to 4 feet. There's category 1, category 2, category 3. we know that the drywall was gutted after hours. So there's actual line items that are in Xactimate specific to this scope that adjusters aren't using. Remember, in our other example, the adjuster's using a price to remove dry drywall. So this is a specific line item to address tearing out wet drywall up to a certain height. If we go on the item information, and by the way, it's WTR, not in the drywall category, it's in the water category. Drywall W4S, that's the line item. I'll give you those separately. So what Xactimate is saying is this line item is referencing the IICRC S500 guidelines. So this is the line item that they're using to address a flood cut. Keep in mind, the other line item rips out drywall and just rips everything out like the whole room's going out. In a flood cut, the contractor has to go in, determine a height. They've got to drop a chalk line, and if you look at most flood cuts, you'll see a little blue or a little orange there because they dropped the chalk line. They use a straight edge, they razor cut the line around, and then they have to be careful to pull the drywall so they don't ruin what's above it. So this price includes removal and cleanup of Category 3 water damage drywall up to 4 feet high. I had spoken to Xactimate, and I asked them, what do I do if they didn't bag it, if they just, threw it in something? They said it's pretty much a wash. The fact that you're dealing with wet drywall, and when you're pulling it apart, it's falling, it's crumbling, it's all over the ground, and you have to clean it up after. So this is the line item to remove, or a flood cut. It's in Xactimate. Going back to our estimate, because I did this. Now note that this is per linear foot, not per square foot. So you have to make sure you're using the perimeter of the floor, because any door openings or window openings will be referenced in that measurement, and it'll be calculated. The next line item, because I don't have the same contractor who ripped it out who's going to put it in at the same job and he's already mobilized, is a totally separate line item to replace drywall. And Xactimate has a line item, DRY LF greater than, drywall replacement per linear foot up to 4 feet tall. And again, if you go into this line item, you're going to see that they have drywall replacement per linear foot up to 2 feet tall. So Xactimate is addressing flood cuts and specific floods. So if you have 2 inches of water and they made a 2-foot flood cut, then there's a line item for it. And these line items also address in this replacement the fact that there's no tall work. Everybody who's doing drywall work in here has to work low. So all their factors, and this is if you view the item description, replace drywall per linear feet up to 4 feet tall. And basically what they're saying is, includes drywall, metal corner bead, etc., labor to install. And it says that they exclude matching existing drywall finish. They're actually giving you the line item, DRYTEX. So what happens is, new home, when they put up drywall, it's going to be new, they're going to spray it, and they're going to back roll it. It's a certain finish. You go into a home that had a flood that's X years old, was wallpaper on the walls, it's been painted multiple times, and putting a house back to pre-loss condition or fixing it doesn't mean having the half a wall look like the other, not look like the other half of the wall. So there's line items to address that. Xactimate is telling you, here's what you should use. So over here's that line item, DRYTEX. DRYTEX, texture drywall, light and hand texture. So what I did here is I did the same square footage, 302.5 divided by 2, because I'm addressing the other half of the wall. And now I have the correct scope. So instead of using the typical DRY 1/2, you're going to use 3 line items. WTR, DRY W4S, and then separately DRY LF greater than, third DRY TEX. These two that address the flood cut and replacement up to 4 feet, they're perimeter linear foot, perimeter of the floor. The other is square footage of the rest of the wall. Now, I mentioned earlier the fact that the assumption in drywall, the price that Xactimate uses, they tell you that the material are surveyed as typical house stocked line items. We have to put a line item in the estimate for that. I don't put that line item in individual rooms. What I basically do is I put the line item into the part of the house itself that I'm doing the work. So for this specific job I'm estimating, I'm going to do labor. I'm going to use 2 guys for 6 hours, and I'm just going to put in a labor price. Now, what I'm actually excluding is the truck and the gas and the tolls and anything else, but I'm kind of building that into the job, but I do need to put the labor in. So for my guys, when at Reliance, when we're doing work and the guys are having drywall delivered, they're just 2 guys showing up, waiting for the truck, and they're loading the drywall when it comes. So what I did is I put in the category LAB, labor, selection labor, and I added an F9 note. I put in there, labor to pick up and deliver drywall to job site. 2 men, 6 hours to pick up, deliver, and load house. I also, just to make sure that there's no misunderstanding why I put this item in, which most claims examiners have never seen before, I put in there, Exactimate description excerpt from DRY 1/2. Drywall materials, components are surveyed, etc. So I'm justifying why I'm putting this line item in my estimate. I do it in the general section, just where I would put dumpsters and stuff like that, because it has to be considered in writing the estimate. So basically, in this example, you'll see what happens in the estimate and what kind of we're looking at. Basically, we're looking at a $369 scope to an $822 scope, and then we basically, on top of that, we're adding the delivery of the drywall as a whole. That's the end of this video. For you adjusters who are estimating losses, just contact us with any questions or any line items. We'll happily give you the correct scope, and answer any more of your questions. Thank you.